Breaking tonight, evidence that both campaigns in 2016 wanted some dirt on each other and were willing to get it in some sources from Russia. But now there's a judge who wants to know exactly how the whole thing worked on the Clinton side of the equation. The dossier, as we know, was funded in part by the Clinton campaign and used sources in Russia who gave information to Christopher Steele, much of which he said was unverifiable. So on the Trump side, you've got the Trump Tower meeting in June of 2016. And tonight, former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen reportedly dropping more bombs. Now he says that the president knew all along about that meeting, even though Cohen said the opposite in the past. So here's what the president said about it today. I did not, in caps, know of the meeting with my son, Don Jr. Sounds to me like someone is trying to make up stories. He even retained Bill and Crooked Hillary's lawyer. Gee, I wonder if they helped him make the choice. Here now, Gregg Jarrett, Fox News anchor and author of the new book, The Russia Hoax, who knows this story inside and out. Greg, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Tonight. So let's start with the fusion side of this, because they've been very tight-lipped about who their sources were for the dossier. But now this judge is trying to give them, have them deposed on it. What are we going to learn there?
Well, the head of Fusion GPS, Glenn Simpson, testified that he hired Christopher Steele to get dirt on Trump. The dossier was the product. 17 memos. I've read them all. I laugh every time. It's absurd, fabricated, anonymous, quadruple hearsay. If you tried to present it in a court of law legitimately, the judge would toss you out or toss you in jail. That use of the dossier, if paid for by the Clinton campaign and not properly accounted for, could be, at a minimum, a civil violation of the Federal Campaign Election Act. At worst, could actually be money laundering.
Yeah. Here's Jake Tapper talking about this topic. Let's take a listen. I want to ask you something about this.
Here's the bottom line. The United States was attacked. The United States was attacked by Russia. Now, it wasn't like Pearl Harbor. It was a cyber attack. And there are a whole bunch of people in Washington who are trying to prevent the investigation from going forward. Imagine if somebody tried to prevent the investigation into how Pearl Harbor happened from going forward. You would say that that person is not being patriotic.
Well, if that is true, then it's also unpatriotic to not understand the dossier side of the equation, where they clearly had sources in Russia who were trying to dig up dirt and sell it as part of the campaign, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, this dossier was the basis for the investigation of Donald Trump. On the day that Comey cleared Hillary Clinton, secretly his FBI was in a building in London meeting for the first time with the author of the dossier, Christopher Steele. Armed with that totally phony, fabricated document, they then launched the investigation, as I argue in my book, to frame Donald Trump for things he didn't do, for crimes he didn't commit. Collusion is not even a crime in a political campaign. It's nowhere in the criminal codes.
All right. So now Michael Cohen says of the Trump side of the equation that President Trump knew about that meeting. Don Jr. said, I didn't bother my father with these people coming from Russia. They wanted to talk about the Magnitsky Act, which is not a light thing. That's a very serious thing that these people have been pursuing for a long time. So now Michael Cohen says, according to these stories, President Trump knew about it. What if he did?
It doesn't matter. So
Why?
what? Even if the president, let's assume the president is lying and he knew about it. It's not a crime to lie to the media. If it were otherwise, just about every politician in Washington would be behind bars. The meeting itself, and I devote a chapter to this, it's entitled, It's Not a Crime to Meet with a Russian. There is no criminal code violation. It's not a violation of the Federal Campaign Election Act, which specifically says foreign nationals may participate in American campaigns. They can attend meetings. They can open their mouths. They can provide information.
All right. So let's take a look at what Michael Cohen said about this back at the time when the June 2016 meeting first came to light. Mike and Donald Trump Jr. said, here's my transaction, here's my emails that I sent back and forth. These people said that they had dirt on Hillary Clinton. He said, oh, if that's true, I'd love to hear it. But then when they got there, according to his story, all they wanted to talk about was the Magnitsky Act, which I think adds up because that is what they want lifted.
Sure.
That's what Vladimir Putin wants lifted. He says, so proud of Donald Trump Jr. for being open, honest, and transparent to the American people. This nonsense needs to stop. Now he is telling a different story.
Catherine Herridge, our own Catherine Herridge, interviewed the Russian lawyer. And she said, we didn't talk about Hillary Clinton. That whole email setting up the meeting was nothing but a pretext,
It was a way to get the meeting.
Yeah, exactly. the Russians could actually publish in Pravda, the Communist Party newspaper, a story about Hillary Clinton and corruption replete with documents, and any American campaign would be allowed legally to use that. It would be of vital American interest. It's protected by the First Amendment. It's not a crime.
All right. So, what I'm seeing is that on both sides of this equation, you have two campaigns who were willing to accept some information. Donald Trump Jr. thought that he was going to get some dirt and said, oh, well, if that's, if you have something, come on over and tell me what you have. And on the Clinton side, they paid Fusion GPS to get Russian sources through Christopher Steele to dig up dirt on Donald Trump. What's the difference
on the Clinton side? It could be a crime, depending upon how the money was handled and whether it was accounted for. There was no money exchanged on the Trump side. So why isn't there an investigation of Hillary Clinton and her campaign and the Democrats for hiring a foreign national and paying money?
So, I would assume, based on what Jake Tapper said there, that he would be pursuing it, because not to would be unpatriotic, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, Greg. Good to see you. The book is called The Russian Hoax, and it came out this week. Really good.
Thank
you
you
so much, Greg. Good to see you tonight.